Hey y'all, it's your old pal Archie Gamble here. Welcome to another edition of the Gamble Ramble vlog. And this one is much like the last one in that it's about a very random kind of celebrity rock star encounter. Both are within the context of a gig, except that the first one, the last one I did was about meeting the guys from Metallica while playing a gig at the Gasworks in Toronto. And this one is about while off gigging on ships during the day of a gig on land in Gibraltar, specifically at the Rock of Gibraltar at St. Michael's Cave. And as you can tell by the title below, this is the day that I met TRE, the drummer from Green Day, spontaneously and unexpectedly in a cave, of all places, on the Isle of Gibraltar. And if you're familiar with your geography, Gibraltar is a small island governed and owned by the British between Spain and Africa, in the Strait of Gibraltar. We've all seen the Rock of Gibraltar. I believe it was Prudential Insurance used to use it as in their logo. And it's a beautiful, beautiful little island, and it's a really interesting place. Take the cable cars up and go to the top of the rock, and the view, panoramic 360 view, you can see both Europe and Africa, and it's pretty freaking amazing. And on the way down, there is a tour you can take of a series of caves called St. Michael's Cave, which is what I did on this day. Now, this is casting us back to August of 2015, so almost 10 years ago, in 2024. Next year it'll be 10 years. And it's a pretty interesting story because, I mean, first of all, the fact that it was in Gibraltar itself was cool enough, or on Gibraltar itself, on the rock was also very cool. And St. Michael's Cave was also very cool. But the randomness of meeting a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame musician is just, to me, very cool, very strange. So, I will tell you, if you're a follower of mine on social media, I have explained this story before on Facebook and Instagram. But I figured today, I posted it, it came up in my memories section of Facebook the other day. And I figured, you know what? I reposted it. I thought, maybe I'll make a video about this and just maybe elaborate a little more for anyone that gives a shit. So we'll start off by saying this. I was and am somewhat of a Green Day fan. I mean, they have great songs and a rock and roll band as far as I'm concerned. And Tre's a good drummer. He plays what the song requires, and he writes cool, hooky drum parts. I mean, look at what was the very first big hit? Starts off with the tom. Like a schmuck, I'm having a mental lapse as I tend to do. Yeah, I forget the name of the song. It's close my eyes, take me away to paradise. You know the song I'm talking about. Whatever. Fuck me, I have such a terrible memory. But not for stuff like this. So, I'll continue on. And as I said, it took place in August of 2015 when I was doing cruise ship work. And a little quick backstory in that is that I had pursued or been contacted and asked to do a cruise ship contract with a band called Horizon. Yeah. From Toronto. And I was grateful for the opportunity. At the time, my marriage was not doing well, and I needed some space, and I needed to make some money. So I took it as a temporary option to get a little separation and also to get some money to pay off some debts, which both were achieved. And ultimately I found that I liked it, so I did it for a couple more years. And it was, it was not what I thought it was going to be. It was really cool, a lot of fun, got to see the world. Very little work, got a lot of passenger privileges and freedoms on the ship to do cool stuff, swim in the pools and watch shows and eat in the restaurants. It's like being paid to be on holiday. On holiday! Anyway, I digress. So back to the story at hand. So yeah, I had taken the first contract in 2014, spring of 2014, and we had gone to spring of 2014. We had gone to the Nordic countries, Holland, and Iceland, Russia, that part of the world. So then, of course, there would have been a second contract after that, late in 2014, which was the Caribbean. And then I guess it would be my third and final contract with Horizon, was the one that we're discussing today, which was in the summer of 2015, spring, summer of 2015. And that was more in the Mediterranean countries, and that was my favorite one of them all. Got to go to Paris and London and Rome. And so anyway, on this particular contract, it was a few months long, and one of the stops that we did it more than once, I think maybe twice, was Gibraltar. So, as per a typical day, I got off the ship, and I always got off the ship very early in the morning because I absolutely loved exploring and walking. A, it was great exercise, and B, it was just such a privilege to be able to travel and get paid for it. So I would literally get off the ship. And as a matter of fact, more often than not, I was the first person off the ship. Like if they were to open the gates at 6 a.m., I'd be there at 5:45. And of course, in these cases, you have to let passengers stuff go. But I was often there so early that there were no passengers. And I absolutely loved it. I would come back at the very last minute, exhausted from walking, but just so happy and satisfied to be able to explore these places. It was a real gift, and I won't lie to you, some days I miss it. But I digress again. So anyway, I got off the ship first thing in the morning. I was super excited to be this place I'd heard about, didn't know much about. And I Googled it beforehand to find out a little information. It was, it was a very valuable World War II stronghold, which is why the British had, in fact, held on to it so tightly because of its geographic positioning, between the continents of Europe and Africa. So, yeah, it was, fortified. There were forts and brick walls, fortified walls, and, cannons, and a lot of history, which I'm kind of a fan of. I don't know if it went back to World War I, but I believe so. If they were using cannons, that would make sense. So, certainly World War II history. I got the ship, and, typical of most ports, you kind of go a little distance to get into the actual town from the port, or walking distance. And of course, there's all kinds of tourist shops and booths and stuff set up. And, this typical fridge magnets and mugs and postcards and pennants and stuff that people buy. And, of course, with me, I always picked up a fridge magnet from my mom, which I inherited that collection when she passed. And also, I would always get a postcard from my friend Marianne. So, I honestly don't remember if this was the first or second or latter visit when this event occurred. But I had decided to go up to the top of the rock, and I'll post some pictures here. I took the gondola up, which was a pretty scary experience in there. Anyone that's been on a gondola up a mountain knows, a very steep hillside. The view was absolutely incredible, though. Like, you could see, as I said, Africa and Europe, Spain, the ocean. It was just an incredible experience. I got to the top, and there are a lot of monkeys up there. They warn you about them too. Don't. I will sidetrack for a couple minutes here because I think it's worth telling. The monkeys will rob you blind. They'll steal anything that isn't nailed down. As a matter of fact, I have a picture, if I can find it, I'll insert it here, of a monkey had stolen a bag of Lay's chips for a person and was sitting on a perch on a rock wall, brick wall, eating the chips, holding the bag and eating chips one at a time like a human being. Fucking hilarious. Anyway, yeah, they were known to, they could be a little bit aggressive, so I told you just to watch out. They'd climb on your back, try to open your backpack and steal your food. sunglasses, whatever. And in fact, on my way back down the mountain, I saw a group of drunk tourists, young men, shirts off, college-age kids, just being belligerent. They were in a circle around a monkey. And I'll never forget this. They were imitating it. Ooh, 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 and you could see the monkey was agitated. He was surrounded. And, they were big assholes, right? Just drunken, stupid kids, I guess. But the one big guy, like the alpha muscular ringleader of the guy of the group, was the most ferocious about it. And I'll never forget this monkey reared back and jumped up and hit the guy in the chest with his hind legs and knocked him over. And I was going, yes! Fucking jerk. Leave him alone. Hey, jarheads, leave those apes alone. Anyway, so get to the top, and then, I'll try to shoot some pictures. It was an absolutely beautiful view. And, took some photos and had a great time. And then someone had mentioned about, it might have been the gift shop. There's a gift shop and a restaurant at the top. I remember I had some pizza sandwich or some snack for lunch. That you could visit St. Michael's Cave on your way down if you walked. So some people would save money and walk up and down the hill. And I wasn't about to do that. It was quite a walk. But I did walk down. And I made the decision on the way down to stop at St. Michael's Cave, which you did. And I don't remember how much admission was. It was reasonable, You go in, and it's thousands and thousands of years old. It's an absolutely astounding series of caves. Really, really high ceiling, for lack of a better word. Stalactites and, I wish I'd remember my science. Starts with an M. The ones that come up and the ones that come down from the ceiling. Everywhere. And they had a series of lights in there that were in different colors, purple, green, red, that highlighted the formations. So it's pretty cool, pretty impressive, right? And I'm standing there, and there's all these groups, first of all, there's all these groups of high school age kids on package tours. You can see them, they're all together, 20, 25 teenagers and a few adults supervising them. You could see them passing by. So this is relevant, it comes in handy in a bit in the story. So anyway, I'm there, and I'm looking around by myself, and I look over to my right. I see this guy, and he's wearing camouflage, like army pants, shorts, like cut off army pants in the form of shorts, like big pockets and everything. He's got a kind of older vintage looking t-shirt on, and got a hat on backwards, scruffy like I am today. And there's something about him struck me as familiar. And I'm looking at him, thinking, I'm trying to politely steal a glance. I'm thinking, is this someone I know from home? Someone from Facebook, whatever it is. He looks so damn familiar. And he catches me looking at him. He says, hi, about 10, 15 feet away. I said, hey, and then it hit me when he said hi to me. I said, hey, I kind of stepped a little forward. I said, have you ever been told that you look like TRE, the drummer from Green Day? He laughed. He goes, yeah, I hear that a lot, right? So I laughed with him, and I said, yeah. I said, I'm a drummer. That's why I know I like TRE's drumming, And he said, oh, what's your name? I said, oh, my friends call me Archie. He goes, oh, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm a musician, and I play on cruise ships. We're in port today, and I came out to explore the rock and the cave. And he goes, oh, yeah. I said, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, I'm with my wife. Walks over to a pretty woman a few feet away. He goes, I can't remember if they said they're on honeymoon or just on holiday. Anyway, I said, oh, cool. I go, where are you from? He goes, California. And I said, oh, cool. He goes, yeah, I play drums too. And I laughed. I'm still a little thick at this point, right? Oh, isn't that funny? I go, you look like TRE from Green Day. You play drums, you're from California, but you're not him. Because Green Day's from the Bay Area, San Francisco, Northern California. And he goes, I never said I wasn't. And the penny dropped, as I'm fond of saying. Old fucking shit for brains here. It kicked in. I went, are you TRE? He goes, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And as I said, I'm not an overtly huge Green Day fan, But they had recently, before this, been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And as I said, I do like the band, and he's a good, solid musical drummer. As I try to pattern myself as that style of drummer, play something that's hooky and memorable and fits the song. And he definitely is that. So we both started laughing, and I go, shit, man, I go, this is unbelievable. It's like, I like your drumming, and your band's really cool. I go, but more than anything, I said, this is so fucking strange, running into you in a cave. Never mind just a cave in a mountain on an island off the coast of Africa, between Africa and Spain. It's so fucking random and strange. We had a laugh about it. He was a real nice guy, And his wife came over, he introduced me. She was very friendly too. So I said, well, listen, enjoy your holiday. I'm going to leave you alone. I've met enough celebrities to know, right? That's cool. He said, thanks, nice meeting you. Walked away. So, I'm exploring, looking around and stuff. And I look over and I notice they're taking pictures. And they're trying to take selfies with these large rock formations behind them. And it's a little awkward. So I walked back over and I said, hey, do you want me to take a few pictures for you guys? That you could both be in them and you can get. And he said, yeah, would you mind? And I said, no, of course not. So, woo, almost fell out of my chair. So I took the pictures, about a series of pictures for them. I handed them back the camera. I was walking away, and it struck me. I said, I don't want to bother the guy, but I'm going to ask. I turned around and said, hey, man, I said, look, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but this is so random and strange. Would you mind if I took a picture with you guys? Because what a great story this is, I could see him, he kind of tensed up, right? And I've been around enough celebrities and rock stars to know when they're uncomfortable. I before he even said anything, I said, you know what, man, never mind. Forget it. It's not a big deal. The story itself is cool enough. And he goes, it's not that. He goes, we're on vacation, on holiday. And I don't mind, but, if you can do it, but just don't post it on social media for a while because we're enjoying ourselves. We don't want to be bothered. We're just kind of keeping it low-key where we are. I said, sure, that makes perfect sense, right? Of course. So I got between them with the camera and we took a shot. And it was very dark in there with the weird lighting and stuff. So, there's two versions of it. I took the one initial picture and then I tried to lighten it up by editing it. And that's cool. I said, okay, I shook his hand. I said, okay, thanks, man. Really nice to meet you. And left them alone and went on my way. And I promised him, as I said, I won't post it for another 2 weeks. He said, will you be home in 2 weeks? I believe I asked. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, well then, is that okay? And he goes, yeah, of course. We don't really bother while we're here. Because, when you post this picture and story, all of a sudden the Green Day fans on Gibraltar are out searching for him, right? They don't bother the guy while he's getting a break from fame, So, it's funny, I laughed. I went ahead of them. And at the exit of St. Michael's Cave, there's a little tavern. I sat down and had a beer. I was just looking through my pictures and stuff. I was chuckling to myself. What a neat experience that was, Real nice guy. And they come up, I'm going to offer to buy them a beer, maybe get to know them a little better. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, kind of sort of doesn't want to be bothered, especially by another musician. But same time, it was very casual, very fun encounter. And we might have sit down and have a beer. But honestly, I sat there, I had a beer. And by the time I finished my beer, they hadn't come out. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and fanboy over anybody. Leave the guy alone. I got up and left. So that's the end of the experience. And it was very cool. So I went back to the ship later that afternoon or early evening. And I posted on Facebook that very kind of random, very vague post saying that day I had met a nameless Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member in a cave in Gibraltar. And the only reason I mentioned it was I didn't betray his trust by saying who it was, because it was so freaking random. It'd be like meeting any celebrity or meeting a friend from school or something, and it's most unlikely of locations. I mean, never mind that in Gibraltar itself, like in the market or something. It's in a cave in the middle of a mountain, right? It was very strange to me. I thought that was more amusing than anything. I posted that. All I said was that there was a Hall of Famer musician. So after I hit post on Facebook with vague post, I got a message from a friend in the music industry in California. And she said, Archie, did you meet TRE today? And I was like, how the fuck could you have deduced that? Like, are you MacGyver? What's going on here? Sherlock Holmes of Southern California? And she explained, she said, well, my son is good friends with TRE. He was in his wedding. I don't know if he was in the wedding party, but had attended his wedding. And he had mentioned, TRE had been to their house, and had mentioned that he and his wife were going to Gibraltar for a holiday. I won't sing it again. And so she put two and two together and came up before it. And I said, yeah, you know, keep it quiet, of course. And she goes, oh yeah, I know. She knows. She's in the music industry. She's hip to the game. She goes, I'm only mentioning it to you because it's so funny that you said that. She knew exactly who it was, right? So I know it was pretty interesting, you know what I mean? For something like that to have happened, it was pretty cool. It was like, it was TRE cool. Oh. And yeah, so there, you know, there's my random rock star experience in a cave. Perhaps you've had a random rock star experience in a cave. If so, comment below. Or even comment about experiences you've had meeting someone that you admire or is well known. Or even just a random encounter with someone in your life in a strange location. And thank you for listening. And as usual, if you can, I would really appreciate you if you could like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be back with more long-winded, hot gas, rock and roll tales. And in the meantime, thank you so much. And remember, Holy Diver, you're the star of the masquerade.